Hey ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first notes of Notes 3. So we're doing Unit 1, Notes 3A, which involves finding the slope. Okay, so make sure that matches with your note sheet that you're doing. So to start off with, I want you in that first box to write down the slope formula. Okay, so if x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 are points, then this right here is your formula. So on your sheet, you're already given that x1, y1, and x2, y2 are points. Okay, so those are points, and then this right here, okay, that is the formula we're going to be using to calculate out slope. So all we're really going to be doing is plugging numbers into the formula for the first part of the note sheet today. So let's take a look at that. Let's do that for number 1. So for number 1, we're just going to plug in numbers. So what I like to do to start off with is I like to go through and kind of label this. So this is my x1, this is my y1, this is my x2, this is my y2. So now I'm going to go through and plug that in. So I have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So here are the mistakes that I see students making the most. Okay, the mistakes I see them making are either combining the x's and y's on top or putting the x's on top. So it's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we have 16 minus 8, which is 8, 9 minus 2, which is 7. So once you get to this point, the last thing you want to do is check to see if it's something that can be reduced. Okay, so 16 minus 8 is 8, 9 minus 2 is 7. 8 divided by 7 cannot be reduced. And when you're dealing with slope, you don't want to put it into a decimal. You want to leave it as a fraction. And if you can, you want to try and reduce that fraction. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier for you. Let's take a look at number 2. So let's go through and label our x1, y1. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so we have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so when you subtract a negative, that's going to become plus a positive. So negative 15 plus 16 is just going to be a positive 1. Negative 7 minus 19 is going to be negative 26. So the last thing you want to do is check to see if you can reduce that fraction anymore, and you can't. So that right there is your final answer. Let's keep moving forward here. Taking a look at the next ones. So let's go ahead and let's get this set up for you. Alrighty. So let's do this one together. So here we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So again, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Here again, when we have minus minus, that becomes plus a positive. Negative 7 plus 19, well, that's going to give us a positive 12. Divided by negative 2 minus 1, that's going to give us a negative 3. When you subtract a number from a negative number, it's going to get more negative. So 12 divided by a negative 3, that we can actually do. 12 divided by a negative 3 is a negative 4. So that's our slope. So right now, all we're doing is working on calculating out that slope. Let's take a look at number 4. So for number 4, here we have x1, y1, x2, y2. Here's the cool thing about using this formula. You can flip-flop these. If you wanted this to be your second parenthesis and this to be your first parenthesis, it'll still work. As long as you're consistent with the 2's being in which paragraph and the 1's being in which parenthesis. Sorry, not paragraph. So let's go ahead and plug it in. I usually just make the second one 2 because that's easier for me to remember. So here I have negative 4 minus 7. And here I have negative 6 minus a negative 4. Again, negative negative becomes plus a positive. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to finish this one out for me. So I want you to subtract that and make sure you reduce your fractions. So whatever you get for your fractions, make sure you reduce it. Next, let's take a look at number 5. So let's go ahead and let's line it up. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have negative 15 minus 0, negative 11 minus 3. So here, we're going to get negative 15 minus 0 is just going to be negative 15. Negative 11 minus 3, well, that's going to give us negative 14. So we can't actually reduce the numbers. There's not a lot we can do. The one thing I do notice, though, is that I have two negatives on top of each other. So that actually is going to become a positive. Same as if you would multiply two negatives together. If you divide two negatives together, it also becomes a positive. So then we have 15 divided by 14 as our final answer there. I'm going to go ahead and have you guys do number 6 all on your own. Look at that formula if you need to. Remember, it helps if you label it out. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier, and then you can just plug it into the formula. Now let's take a look at calculating a slope from a graph. So you might want to pause the video and get this all written down before you listen to me talk. So we always calculate slope as rise over run. You'll hear me say that a lot in class, rise over run. Okay, so then you want to start and you want to find 2 points on the graph. The easiest way to find 2 points is to find where it hits the corner. So if you want to make a note to yourself that you'll find a point if it's on a corner of one of the squares on the graph. Okay, then you have to figure out how many you have to go up or down to get to your next point. So count how many you have to go up, and that's going to be the numerator of your fraction. And then you need to count how many you need to go right. That's going to be the denominator of your fraction. Okay, and remember, this is the biggest, most important part about this whole thing, is that if you go down or if you go left, both of those are considered negative. So if you're calculating your numerator and you go down, you need to put a negative number. If you're calculating your denominator and you go left, you need to count it as negative. Likewise, you also need to remember that 2 negatives are equal to a positive. Okay? Next, let's take a look. So first thing we want to do on this one is find some points. So I see that I have a point here. And I keep looking and I see, okay, I have a point here. So I always like to start with the point that is the farthest left. Okay, I like to start with the point that is the farthest left, which I would say is this one. So we're going to go ahead and label these points. Your x point comes first. So here's my x point, which is -3. And then my y point, it looks like I'm going down 5. Okay, then this is at the point 0, 0. So here's the deal. If you're not comfortable with the way I'm going to show you with counting, you can always go back and use the formula once you've figured out these points. You do have that option as well. So let's go ahead and calculate this out. I want to figure out how far I need to go up to go from this point to this point. So I need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5. Remember again that slope is rise over run. So 5 is going to go on top. Now I need to figure out how many I need to go over. Well, I need to go over 1, 2, 3. So I go over 3. So my slope then is 5/3. Up 5 over 3. Rise over run. Let's take a look at this one. I see that this crosses the corner here. So I have this point here. And then I have this point here. So this point, I go over 0. So my x-coordinate is 0. Remember in the parentheses, x comes first. And then I'm going up 2. For this point, I'm going over 4, and I'm going up 3. Now I'm just looking for the point itself, okay? I'm not looking for how many I'm going up from the previous one, just for the point itself. So this point right here has the coordinates 4, 3. So now let's go ahead and let's calculate the slope using kind of the triangle that we did before. So we go from this point to this point. I'm going to have to go up 1. So rise is my numerator, so I'm going to write that first. I'm going up 1. And then I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the bottom, how many I'm going over? That's 4. So then my slope is going to be 1/4. Okay, next, let's take a look at number 9. Let's find those points. So here I have a point here. I have a point here. No. As well as a point here. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and calculate this out. So for this point, to write the coordinates of the point, I notice that I'm going over 0. So my x-coordinate is 0. And then I notice that I'm going up 3. So there's that one. For this point, I notice I'm going over 1, and then I'm going down 3. So that point is 0, or is net 1, -3. Okay, so if you're not understanding something, that's the nice thing about it being on a video, is that you can go back and forth and rewind. Alright, so do that if you need to. So let's go ahead and calculate out this slope. So to go from here to here, we're going down 1, 1, 2, whoa. Or I'll just move the graph, huh? We're going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm at the same level as that point. So I'm going down 6. Remember, down means negative. Down means negative. Here, and then I'm going right 1. Well, negative 6 over 1, and it can actually just be written as negative 6. That means the same thing. So if you can reduce a fraction, go ahead and do that. Okay? Let's take a look at this next one. I'm going to get the points set up for you, and then I want you to calculate the slope. So I see that we have a point here. And this point, again, we're going over 0, but we're going up 1, 2, 3. So we're going up 3. Now I'm noticing over to going to this point, I notice that I'm now over 3, and I'm up 2. So you can use those points if you want to and use the formula, or you can use the triangle like we were doing over here to calculate that out, okay? So give me your slope for number 10. Once you're done, go ahead and bring up your completed note sheet. Thanks for listening.